Don't block the screen. Hello, hello. Is this, everyone hear me okay? Oh, that was unexpected. So g'day, my name is Phil Watkins. I'm one of the co-founders at Mice Media. It is a decentralized media platform built for brands, content creators, and consumers. With great pleasure, I introduce you to Bryn, our co-founder, our actual initial founder, sorry, of the project. He's going to be doing a lot of the talking today. And also on my left, Tommy Robinson, one of the most polarized, censored journalists of our generation. So look forward to, obviously, you guys hearing to what he has to say today. Just flown in from England, so bear with him. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to get off the stage, allow you guys to enjoy it. And obviously, there'll be 10, 12 minutes of talking, and then, yeah, chance for Q&A at the end. Enjoy.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. How are you? So I think we're all here and agree that decentralization is a massively disruptive tool for almost any brand, project, corporation, etc. But the ability to build a brand through a community is profound. That's why I was drawn to this industry. But as I looked at it, there was certain industries are more ripe for disruption than others, and it's those industries that have been broken due to the fact that they're highly centralized, right? So most of us came here, or at least arrived at this conference, because of the financial system, right? The concentrated power in the financial markets by central banks, by lending institutions, by exchanges, et cetera, left the power of the monetary system in the hands of the few, right? I think that if you look at it, it's the same thing when it comes to the media industry. Whether it's television or social media, et cetera, the power of the narrative is in the hands of the few, right? There's only a select few networks or social media platforms that control the narrative for everybody else. We overwhelmingly have the same massive distrust in our current media landscape, which is riddled with political influence, private interest, corporate interest, et cetera, that we did have with the financial industry as well. What used to be journalism is now just a consumer product. And through decentralization and the ability to build a brand from the ground through governance from a community, a far better media network can be built. So hopping over to Tommy, right? Especially if you guys are from the UK, or you're from France, or you're from England, you probably have a very strong opinion of Tommy. I'll explain why he's up here, is because we hold Twitter spaces like many people in the NFT space, right? And Tommy was brought to me as someone that we should have on our Twitter space. Someone that I love very much said, hey, Tommy's had issues with corporate media, polarizing guy, but you should give him a shot. So being from America, I had heard of Tommy before, but I didn't really know who he was. So I went to look him up on social media. There is no Tommy Robinson on social media. I went to look him up on Google, and all I saw were corporate network headlines about a crazy man, right? About, an alt-right villain, about a fascist, about a Nazi, right? All these different narratives came and popped up. But because we don't have a corporation over top of us, because we don't have a board of directors, I went to our community and I asked, should we have Tommy on stage? Is this something we should do? And I think the sentiment from our community was, we don't have to agree with what an individual says, but we absolutely agree with the right to say it. So we went forward and we did it. And when we made that announcement that Tommy was coming on a Twitter space, I got a barrage of emails and direct messages saying, don't give this man a platform. That being said, we'd already committed to it. So we brought Tommy on board, and we had a conversation that wasn't focused on the headline. It was focused on the context as to how that individual came to that opinion. the idea was never for Tommy to speak and convert all the listeners. I think for that space, we had like 4,000 listeners. The idea was never to convert them into the way that Tommy thought, but rather give the context to see how Tommy came to that opinion, right? So we went through with it. And as that ended, when our Twitter space ended, I got almost as many emails afterwards, but the narrative was quite different. The narrative was, this is the only time that we've ever seen the reason as to how Tommy got there. We've never heard the context, we never heard the story. The reason is the context and the story don't have any sizzle. It's not a headline, it's not as exciting, right? So, through building a decentralized media network where we don't have pressure from advertisers, we don't have pressures from a boardroom, we don't have pressures from a corporation, we're able to have those conversations. And that's something that a corporate network would never be able to do. So, like Phil had said earlier, Tommy's had a tremendous amount of experience in the eye of the media and has had more experience with corporate networks than at least I have. So I welcome Tommy up to share his story a bit, which I think continues the narrative that I just laid out.
Thank you. So I started off as an activist in 2009 and I become a citizen journalist. During my activism, I give seminars and speeches at Columbia University in New York, Oxford University, Harrow boarding school. When I gave my first speech at Oxford University, I walked in there and there was a crowd of people who hated me. They disliked me, I was getting sneered, I was getting abused. I walked out to a standing ovation. It was the first chance I'd had in 5 years of activism to give my side of the story. Because when I'd been on the mainstream media, or any demonstrations or anything to do with my activism, it was clipped and people were told what to think about me rather than being given context. Now I blew up with my citizen journalism. In 1 month I had 69 million people watch my YouTube videos. I had 172 million people read my tweets. We bypassed the corporate globalist media. We reached the phones of the individuals. We were talking directly to you sitting at home. You could then form your own opinion on who I was. That galvanised support. Our figures went through the roof. I then find out that Panorama is the BBC's most investigative and best journalist corporation in the UK. It's their job to investigate. I heard they were doing an investigation on me and they were doing a show about me. I sent someone undercover into Panorama wearing a hidden camera, okay? What I got is unthinkable from the main network of the UK that we pay for. I got the head of it, John Sweeney. I got him planning to make sexual allegations against me. I got covert recordings of them telling people what to say about me. I then contacted Stephen Bird. Stephen Bird is a Times journalist. I met him very early on in my activism. I believed him to be a fair journalist. I contacted him. He came and sat down with me. And I showed him our undercover covert recordings that we had ready to expose Panorama. He was so excited. He said, this is absolutely huge. He went away to see his editor. He come back. We're not allowed to report it. We're not allowed to report it. Now that is the problem. That is a controlled media. I put my documentary out. I called it Panodrama. I put it out on the biggest screen I could hire, 50 metres, a huge screen outside BBC's offices. Within 24 hours, it had 2 million views. I was deplatformed from every single social media network there is. Not just deplatformed. If you go home now and you write Tommy Robinson on Facebook, you will get deplatformed, okay? Never tried, never convicted. I've never been arrested on racism or hate crimes. I've never been questioned on any of that. Okay? I speak facts that they don't like, uncomfortable truths that challenges government policies, which is why they didn't like what I was doing. So within 24 hours, I was removed. When I was deleted, okay, and when that Panodrama documentary went out, John Sweeney, the head of Panodrama, was put on gardening leave. Not one single UK journalist mentioned at all in any media any of the things we had on covert recordings of them creating fake news. This is the propaganda wing of the British establishment, whose job it is to destroy anyone. It bears into question anything Panorama have ever done when you watch this expose. Now, the problem being that no one cared. Why did no one care? Because it was Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson speaks about open border immigration. He talks some uncomfortable issues that raise a lot of questions that are difficult conversations that people rather shy away from. Has that changed? Yes. It's shifted from open border immigration to you can't talk about the vaccine. You can't talk about COVID. You can't mention certain things on YouTube because you will get deleted. You can't talk about transgenderism. It shifts and it shifts and it shifts. You may sit there thinking you're on the right side of free speech today. At some point you won't be. They will decide where the shift comes. They will decide what you can and you can't talk about, which is why decentralized media, for me, which is why I was so interested when I heard about it, giving people the opportunity to make their own mind up. When they took my free speech, or the doctors and scientists' free speech that they're now taking, who are speaking out, when they take that free speech, they're taking your ability to listen. Okay? It's not about censoring me. It's about censoring the public from making their own mind up. Because they'd rather tell you how to think about their narratives, whatever goal or path they're taking, whichever country down, whether it be to do with Big Pharma or whatever's happening. One of the most examples of this, which I give, which I believe Andrew Tate is a holder and has mice from this. He has his own mice. Which is why I question everything that's currently happening with Andrew Tate. Okay, because I know what they were doing to me. But they managed to censor me. I'm still censored. Elon Musk took over Twitter and spoke about the importance of citizen journalism. I was given my account back. Within 2 weeks, I amassed nearly 100,000 followers. And then I was taken down again. No reason, no rules were broken. So Twitter is still controlled. They need for, and when I talk about these debates and for you to make your own mind up, these issues need to be spoke about. There needs to be a healthy centre given for people to debate the most complex issues or the most troubling and challenging issues for our generation, certainly. So, Mice Media for me is super positive. Super positive because I enjoy sitting down and debating my issues with anyone. I've always held my hands up and said I will sit down and talk. I've done debates with imams. I've done debates with people on the left. I think these debates need to be had and they need to be heard. And they need to be heard in a way where people can make their own mind up rather than the media telling you who people like me are, but take it away from thinking about Tommy Robinson, because some people may already have strong beliefs about me from what you've read, and think about the doctors, the scientists, and all the other people now who are being censored by the mainstream narrative and by the mainstream media. So yeah, that's just a little brief on my story and why I believe a decentralized media is the future, because there is nothing like it. There is nowhere where people can go and sit and have these discussions without being censored. And you know what? I've just come back from Ireland. I've done a documentary this week about what's happening in Ireland, and I'm going to prove the fear in the public, the fear in everyone. And I wore an undercover camera and walked into a city in Ireland, and I asked all the women, which I'm going to show in my documentary, how do you feel about what's happening in this country? This is to do with the migrant situation. Every single one of them are in fear. Every one of them aren't walking the streets. They're getting husbands to collect them. They're getting picked up. When I asked them to say that on camera, will you say that on camera? No. No. No one will speak their mind. I actually asked myself, do these women tell their friends how they feel? So the need for people to have a platform for a discussion because everyone's scared to speak because of cancellation, because of branding, because of labeling is so important. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Is that it? Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. Is there a Q&A or is that? Absolutely, yeah.
Hi. So to me, your story is obvious. We all know this stuff. But how does it work? So I'm asking you, so I know that we need decentralized media and that people get censored every day. But how does it work?
So to me, it's this, right? We used this analogy 5 minutes ago. When it comes to control from a corporate network, right, or it comes to control from a corporation that controls a media company, there's so few that have that stage, that have that weapon to make that much noise, right? And think about it, if there was 2 dogs versus 100 dogs, right? And you look at that as the ownership of a corporation, the governance of a corporation. It's far easier to control 2 or 3. And that's what's happening right now with the small amount of media networks that have a voice. When it comes to decentralized media, and in our case, when the governance is spread among holders, right, and that's who's making the decision, not a few people in a corporate boardroom, it's much harder to control those 100 individuals or get them to believe the same thing and follow the same narrative. So for us, I think the most important thing is this. It's in the decentralization in the governance of the media network is one thing. There's obviously the decentralization and democratization of content creation, right? But it's in the governance that we're able to bypass a lot of the issues that are now happening with traditional television media or social media.
Yes, thank you. A quick question. Which blockchain are you using?
Which blockchain? We're on Ethereum, but our media network as a whole, right? The way that our media network is set up is this, right? Is when for 100 years we all read the newspaper, right? You open up the newspaper, you see the headings at the top, whether it's sports, news, politics, etc. In our case, it's the same thing. It's a media dashboard, and you're able to see those different genres of news. And when you click in, right, you're able to then go into that portal and learn more about it. So rather than just reading news, right, or watching somebody deliver news, you can interact with news, you can create content, etc. So while the chain is on Ethereum, right, we've made it so that, people who create content of value can be rewarded. So if you have a Twitter space, or Tommy's having a debate, or there's an author that's talking about a book they've created, rather than just go on a Twitter space or create content on YouTube and not monetize, we allow them to sell tickets. We allow them to accept tips. We allow them to have subscribers, and we're not taking 90% like YouTube. We flip the ratio.
So it's a protocol like Lens, for instance?
I'm sorry?
It's a protocol like Lens, for instance? Or
Similar, yes. I think we're being told. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.